I'm going to spend the next 25-30 minutes talking about the new business objects maintenance strategy. So a lot of you are aware that back in the summer of 2022, Business Objects put out a new 10-year plus a roadmap for business objects, and then at the beginning of 2024, they further extended that roadmap. And when they further extended that roadmap back in around May of this year, they also came up with a whole new approach to software releases. Traditionally, you had BI 4.1, and then all these service packs that would come out over a 5-year period, and then you had BI 4.2 and a service pack every year, and BI 4.3 and a service pack every year. Well, they've completely changed the cadence of that now with the next release that will come out, BI 2025, following a naming convention, much more standardized by Microsoft out there, and using a year so people would understand, okay, that's the current release, and so forth. And so next year, BI 2025 will be the next release of business objects. And now, instead of having service packs, you will actually have new minor releases. So 2 years later, they will release BI 2027. And 2 years after that, BI 2029, and then BI 2031, and so forth. And so the traditional model of going from 5 years of a major release with service packs every year to 2 years of priority 1 support, that 7-year cycle, has now been condensed into a 3-year cycle of 2 years of a major release and 1 year of priority 1 support for that major release. And that's what you're seeing here, right, in this roadmap. And so you can see here, let's try and adjust that a little bit for you. It'd be tricky, but we might be able to do it. So if we move along to 2024, right, you can see, right, that basically BI 4.2 goes out of priority 1 support on December 31st this year. And meanwhile, we're in the mainstream of BI 4.3. And this here is actually Service Pack 4, and this will be Service Pack 5. And then at the beginning of 2026, it goes into 2 years of priority 1 support. But here, right, in 2025, you're going to see the release of the next version, BI 2025, which will be current for 2 years and then go into priority 1 support for 1 year. And then at the beginning of 2027, same thing, 2 years of 2027, priority 1, 2029. Okay, so that is the new cadence for business objects releases going forward.
Question.
Yes.
So it used to be in the past, like if you were stuck, and obviously we'll be stuck for a little bit for Unix conversion.
Yeah.
If you wanted to leave it at you don't make 2025, you're going 2027. It used to be you had to do kind of a 2025 in the middle and now do 2027. Are you going to be able to go 4.3 to 27?
Yeah.
Okay.
You are. Okay. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a future slide as well, because you can even go from 4.2 or 4.3 straight to 2025. Right. So as I mentioned, priority 1 support for 4.2 ends at 2024. Mainstream support for 4.3, right, will continue until the end of 2025, and then it goes into 2 years of priority 1 support. Priority 1 support, for those of you who are familiar with what it is basically that SAP will still support it. You can still put in calls, they will still try to help you, but they won't release any further updates to it. So there won't be any further, service packs and so forth. And so in fact, the last service pack for 4.3 will be SP5. And instead of coming out 12 months after SP4, it's being extended to come out 18 months afterwards. And the main reason for that is because it's interfering with the release of BI 2025, and they want to get all the new functionality up and running in 2025. And SPO5, that last service pack, will not have new functionality, it will just be fixes, right? Patches and fixes in it. Okay. And here's a new term I would think to most of you probably never heard of. Customer specific maintenance, right? Which is fascinating because look where it's stuck, right? After 4.3 goes out of support, even out of priority 1 support, you could still get CSM, customer specific maintenance. And I will talk about that as well. So 4.2 priority 1 support, as we said, finished at the end of 2024, and it's fundamentally end of life. So if anyone is running, 4.2 or prior releases, you will be out of support as of January the 1st. What does that mean? It means that if you place a call to SAP, they will say to you, you need to go to the current release of software. Okay, and they won't be able to fix your issue. But more importantly, they also won't be certifying, right, other products against it. And so that's where the issue comes in. Suddenly there's a new release of Windows, there's a new release of a different browser, a new release of a database. And if you're on a release that is no longer supported, it's not been certified. And so therefore, you're on your own, and you're taking a hell of a risk to continue. 4.3, right, as I said, the mainstream maintenance with those service packs, the frequency is they've been coming every 12 months. They've been released in December of each year, and then they're valid for 12 months, and then the next one comes out, with the exception, as I said, of Service Pack 5. Patches, right? And when we talk about patches, we're talking about fix packs, right? Which are known as FP, fix packs. So if you're running BI 4.3 Service Pack 3, right, you might be running fix pack 1100 right now, or something like that, okay? Which means that there have been 11 sets of patches during the life of 4.3. The current release is BI 4.3 Service Pack 4, and we're just up to Fix Pack 800, which means that there have been 8 fix packs released during the life of SPO4. Okay, and they tend to come every 6 to 8 weeks. And what is a fix pack? It's a bunch of patches and fixes to fix known problems and problems that you've reported and other clients have reported to them that they now have, right, fixes for. And then you have something called a hot fix. And these are very rare, okay, but they do happen. And, these are on demand, right, where you have this unique problem and it needs to be fixed very quickly because you're basically system down. Or the other one where you'll see a hot fix is a security issue. Okay, so something has happened, right, and they have suddenly found a security flaw in the software that people are starting to exploit. And so you see this happen all the time with Microsoft and others, where they will quickly issue, right, a hot fix to plug that hole, right, as quickly as possible. And so in those cases, you wouldn't necessarily have to wait 6 to 8 weeks, right? That hot fix will become available very quickly, and you'll be told, get that in, right, as soon as possible. So this is very important. Patches on older service packs will be in 8-week cycles, with the last 3 patches maintained with hotfix pilot notes. And so this is why customers get completely frustrated, right, with the situation often. So if you are at fixed pack 800 of SP4, what they're basically saying is they will fully support 800, 700, and 600. But if you happen to be at fixed pack 300 or 400, they're not going to apply a fix into that. They'll tell you to get to one of the 3 current ones, and then they will apply the fix to that. And so I have this discussion with customers on a very regular basis, and as I said, they get frustrated very, very quickly because they've reported a problem, and SAP says, yes, we've reproduced the problem, and we've got a fix for it. And the customer goes, great, can I have it? They go, well, it's in this service pack of this fix pack. And the customer goes, well, I don't have that. And they go, no, you can download it. They go, yeah, but that means I have to upgrade to that service pack and fix pack. And SAP says, yes. And you're saying, yeah, but I've got a test. I've got a, so this is one of the reasons why it becomes important to stay up to date, right? And to track and follow this. And so this is a key part of the maintenance strategy. So 4.3 will go into priority 1 support, as I said, at the beginning of 2026, and it will be there for 2 years. And so, what's going to happen for those of you who stay on 4.3 through 2025 and 2026 is you're going to want to be at the most current service pack and fixed pack during that priority 1 support. And by that time, it will be service pack 5 and whatever fixed pack, right, was there at the end of 2025. Okay, and that way, right, you're likely to get the best kind of support and service during that priority 1 support period. But hot fixes will still be available. Obviously, if there's a security flaw or issue, you will still be able to get that. Now we get onto this whole new world of customer-specific maintenance. And this is probably new to you. It was actually enlightening to me. I'd heard about it before, but now it's becoming, part of the maintenance strategy. And it is quite intriguing. You see other software companies do it. Microsoft is very good at doing this. They make a lot of money out of it as well, but where you're sitting there on 2012 servers. Microsoft says we don't support that anymore. And so the customer goes, well, what if you paid it? Oh, okay. I'll support you. Okay, so SAP's caught on to this. And so, this is the key, which I highlighted here, and they didn't highlight, by the way, in their presentation. Further processing of unmaintained versions is regarded as a consulting service subject to charge. Okay, buried there in the small print. Okay, but it could be quite useful for some clients. And the reason I say that is I'm going to talk a little bit in a minute about what products and functions go end of life at the end of 4.3. And you won't be able to use those products in BI 2025 and 2027 and 2029. And you might need longer, right, to convert and change the products that are still being used in 4.3. And so you could end up going beyond 2027, in which case you might be very interested in the customer-specific maintenance because you still want to have a lifeline and support, right, through SAP. So be careful. you know, look at this small print. SAP cannot guarantee that every problem can or will be solved within specific customer maintenance. Of course, they're going to cover themselves, right? And there are restrictions in the scope of services, right? No delivery of legal changes, including security and technology updates. So basically, they're going to give you stuff or maybe fix things, but they're not going to guarantee it. Okay, not in the same way as they would a major release. So the new set of releases, the new 2025, 2027, 2029, right? As I said, will come out every 2 years and will have a lifetime support cycle of 3 years. So what's missing in these releases is there won't be any more service packs. Okay, so you will only get fixed packs, right? Every 6 to 8 weeks, the same as you do today. Okay, and so you will have BI 2025 and you'll have fixed pack 1, fixed pack 2, fixed pack 3, right, etc. And hot fixes, you know, pretty much the same as with the current releases, but will require approval. Yep.
If I can ask, so if there will not be any only fixed packs, service packs, so functionality is only in that 2-year cycle.
That's the plan. However, when we asked SAP Engineering back at IBIS in June that question, they were very coy about that about their answer, and they kind of hinted that there may be some new functionality delivered during the life of those releases, 2025, 2027. And so I immediately put the question to them, well, that's a service pack then. They go, no. No, right? I said, well, what are you going to call it? And they said, we might call it a business pack. And I said, you got to be kidding me. Right? So it's not completely off the table, but to answer your question, that is the intent, right? So new functionality every 2 years, not every year.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe more stability at least.
Exactly, which is one of the things everybody asks for, right? Great point there, and I agree that, you know, putting those service packs with new functionality every year was causing chaos through 4.3. But here's the kicker. I mean, I've watched life cycles of software development for, you know, decades, and you've seen it yourselves in business objects. Why is it that you're told you're going to get all this functionality in BI 4.2, you're going to get all this functionality in BI 4.3, and then when the first release comes out, you only get 30% of it, 40% of it, because they haven't finished. And so they've been using service packs to deliver things late, right? Okay, because they can't keep up with that. Now, you know, it's interesting. I made a presentation to the SAP Web Intelligence developers in Paris last, can't remember what it was, in the summer sometime. And maybe August, September, and there was 100 web intelligence developers. And they asked me to be completely honest, tell them what people are doing with business objects and so forth. And I explained to them the majority of customers use business objects for operational reporting. And all these new features that SAP is bringing out in business objects with dashboarding and data visualization and so forth, for the most part, are being unused because customers are already using Power BI, Tableau, or other tools to do that with. And I said, you know, the main thing that people have been concerned about with BI 4.3 is stability. And so I said, the one thing they would like to see with the next series of releases is, you know, less updates and more stability. And they would be willing to have less functionality, right, for more stability, right? Because most of them are running mission critical reporting, right, with business objects. Okay, and all the fancy stuff you're creating is great. And there's a lot of new capabilities, but they would much rather have, right, stability. So after I finished the presentation, I went to the Starbucks down next door to the SAP office there in Paris, and one of the developers followed me. And he waited outside the Starbucks, right, to talk to me. So I came out of the Starbucks and he cornered me and he goes, look, I just want to get this straight. He said, because I'm working on the data tab mode and I want to add the formula editor and I want to add all this functionality and so forth. He said, surely customers would rather have that over stability. And I looked at him in the eye. What? No. No, absolutely not. 100% no. Okay. But it does bring you to the point where you understand that these people truly work in a bubble. They are not talking to customers every day. They don't understand that they are working here. So
do they allude to anything like, I know they're kind of scrapping analytics cloud, it sounds like, but are they alluding to trying to bring business objects to the cloud in some way to compete with like a Power BI who runs on Microsoft Service?
no.
For stability reasons?
No. And it's almost like they've lost direction and track of time. What they fail to understand is that SAC has already failed.
Yeah.
Right, as a BI platform, but they can't acknowledge that because they did what Oracle did. They wrapped in, you know, the BPM capability, the financial forecasting and analysis into SAC. And so most people are buying SAC for that functionality, the EPM stuff that Tracy was showing earlier. That's why they're buying it. They're not buying it to use as a BI platform. Okay. And when you consider that here in the US, 85% of customers, business objects customers, use Power BI, Tableau, or both.
Right.
They've already lost. Right?
It's too late to the market, they missed it.
They completely missed it. So the topic came up several years back, 5 or 6 years ago. Why don't you just move business objects to the cloud and make it cloud-based? You know, but 5 years ago, they still believed, as they still seem to believe now, that SAC can conquer the world, and it's not going to happen. But let me tell you this: 25% of business objects customers in the US today are running in the cloud. Okay, and so you can take your existing business objects deployment and host it, you know, in GCP or Azure or AWS, etc. And that's what they're doing. Okay, and there's no license implications for that at all, which makes it very simple, you know, and so forth. And if you look back at the roadmap slide there, you probably saw that line going right across the bottom there, because they have their own hosted business objects in the cloud, which has been a complete and utter disaster. And they only have maybe 50 customers running on that.
Disaster due to costs or?
They did take into consideration the legal and security requirements of hosting other people's applications in the cloud. Okay, and so being a company like SAP, they require cloud architects, security architects, and everybody to vet, you know, everyone's application that they're now going to host on SAP's infrastructure. And so what they did to compensate for that is they changed the pricing model such that they lock you in for 3 to 5 years and around $2 to $3 million minimum payment for licensing you already own, right, to get started. And you look at them in the eye and you go, no, why? Right? We're not going to subsidize your, right, hosting cloud environment. And so it's failed, right? It truly has failed. Now, don't get me wrong, because they do host a lot of their ERP customers in the cloud. And if those ERP customers happen to have some business objects, that will come along with them.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. If you look at SAP certification program, everything is around that ERP.
Yeah, in the cloud. So yes, but no plans to answer your question at this point. So again, there will be this new customer specific maintenance available for those 2025, 2027 releases. So if you're on one of those and you really don't want to go to the next release and just stay with it, you can negotiate with SAP and get customer specific maintenance. So hot fix versus private fix, exceptional circumstances. So for urgent deliveries, right, SAP will decide the best vehicle in an agreement with the customer. So a hot fix is something that is available to everybody, right? Because as I said, it might be a security hole, something like that, and they've got to fix it and they've got to make it available to everybody. But you could also request a private fix, something that only you want and you absolutely have to have. And as you can see here, they will entertain that, but they will not guarantee it. And so possible side effects. Okay, do you really want to take that risk? Okay.
And that's probably not free.
No, you would pay them to develop it for you and so forth. I think you'd be better off doing it yourself if you're going to go down that path myself. But as I said, exceptional circumstance. I think again, what SAP is trying to do here is to say, look, we're not drawing hard lines in the sand here. We're willing, right, to do things, but if they're going to, be unique to you, you're going to need to be prepared to pay for them. Okay. And so, here, when you look at the hot fix versus the private fix in terms of the Q&A, they're very similar together. But, again, a private fix comes with risks. Okay. And you are responsible for the testing. And if something goes wrong, they're not going to be liable for that, right? Because a hot fix would have gone through regression testing and some Q&A at SAP, but a private fix would not. And then likewise, using the standard upgrade software now available, this is what I alluded to earlier on, that you can actually go from 4.3 and actually now from 4.2, right, directly to BI 2025. So it is possible, okay, to do that jump. It's not advisable. And the reason it's not advisable is there's so much new functionality in 4.3, and there was so much new functionality in BI 2025 that you're going to have a hell of a time. Your UI changes, tons of new features and so forth. It's going to be tough. It's far easier to take that step. Plus, you have a problem because BI 4.2 goes fully end of life out of support on December 31st this year. And so you will run the risk that if you were an early adopter of BI 2025, you are taking a hell of a risk. like a brand new untested release of software? I don't think so. I don't think, is there anyone on 4.2 here? I know we have a customer on an earlier release here, right? But the good news is that you guys are running Crystal reports, and that is, reasonably stable. It didn't go through all the code changes that the other side of the software did, but it still affects the platform, right? The platform itself.
Yes.
So there were some components removed from 4.3 which are no longer there. The report conversion tool, the upgrade management tool, you won't find those in 4.3. The Web Intelligence, Java Applet, and of course Explorer and Excelsior, which also went end of life. So those products were canned prior to 4.3. But most of you are running 4.3 now, and so the ones you're interested in are which components in 4.3 will no longer be available in BI 2025, 27, etc. And so the key one here is the UNV universes. So if you still have UNV universes, if you go to BI 2025 or 27, it won't be there. You can't run them. You'll only be able to run UNX universes at that release. Multi-source universes as well, it won't be there. Live Office. Anyone here uses Live Office at all? No, that was the ability to put basically the Microsoft Office products on top of business objects. So you would never see business objects, you would just have an extra tab in Excel or Word or PowerPoint with a drop down to bring data in. And when you brought data in, it was running a business objects query to pull the data straight into Excel and so forth. The finance departments loved it. And Crystal Reports for Enterprise. And this is not the Crystal Reports that most people use. This was a new version, a rewritten version of Crystal Reports that came out around 2010. The idea behind it was, let's make Crystal Reports better. Let's make it more like Web Intelligence and make it a server-based product as opposed to a desktop client-based product. And they rewrote the whole thing in Java. And then, oh yeah, we can have it on mobile as well. And when they first created it, they had about 60% of the functionality. And they said, we will bridge that gap within 2 years. So by 2012, right, Crystal Reports for Enterprise will have 100% of the functionality of Crystal Reports, and we will bring the two products together. And here we are in 2024 and the end of life again. So that tells you it failed. It basically failed. And so not many people ever used it. And so obviously customers are being encouraged to move off these products as quickly as possible since they won't be there in these future releases. And here is the end of life timetable for those of you interested. And as I said, 4.2 is the next one to go end of life. 4.3 will be end of life at the end of 2027. So still got a few years left there. And for those of you who always get confused by somebody says, what version are you running on business objects? And you get this kind of nomenclature. You go, I haven't got a clue what that is. All right, here is the translation. Okay, so basically it's, BI platform server, right, 4.2, right, Service Pack 9, patch 200. Okay, so that's what we use when we talk about it. That's what you find on the system. Why they can't just translate it, I don't know. It's just beyond me. All fixes are upported I mentioned about SPO5 being delayed. And again, fixes will continue to be delivered to SPO5 until the end of 2025. Which is interesting because that means that SPO5 will actually only have a support lifespan of 6 months. They're going to release it in the middle of 2025 and then go into priority 1 at the beginning of 2026. So I don't think you'll see too many fixed packs for SPO5. It could be wrong, but I don't think you will. And then here's some helpful, useful links, and we'll make sure that everyone gets those. Any questions? Okay, I know that was, a lot to take in there, but I just wanted to try and put it in simple terms so you would understand. As I said, I get these questions all the time. Yes.
So do you think they'll keep all the functionalities of SP4 into BI 2025, or do we have to wait for?
That's the plan.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, there should not be any deprecation of functionality that you've seen coming with those service packs in BI 4.3. It's adding on to them. So for example, in SPO4, you've got the data tab. Okay, in BI 2025, you'll see add-ons to the data tab, right? But you shouldn't see anything, right, that's been taken away. What you might see is bugs. Where suddenly it was working at SP4 and now it's not working at BI 2025. There you go. Okay, time for a break, so go help yourselves.